Hello and welcome to the Cafe Cast, and unfortunately this week I don't think we have much to talk about. I mean, people don't really remember much about this episode, am I right?
Oh, yeah,
it's the barrel episode. Oh,
yeah,
Celestia shows up again, and
it's Batman v Superman all over again, always. Even though I haven't seen it yet.
I mean,
really?
I've been avoiding
You're
it.
smart.
I understand. What am I?
All right.
Still skeptical about it.
Anyway, as you can hear, I've taken back my hosting duties this week, and I have a whole new cast with me. Well, not a whole new cast, but a different lineup as always, as usual. So, all right.
Hello.
First up, Alice the Dragon.
Hey everyone, and the comic nerd me's kind of miffed at it, but I've since put it to rest because, yes, comics be canon, this a canon.
Anime Wolf Gamer.
Hello there.
Hello to you too. Jordan Lego Comics.
Hey everyone, Jordan Lego Comics here, and oh my goodness, this was a great episode.
And Unova Brony.
praise be unto the sun! Praise it be! I can't believe it actually happened! You got me the light Twilight again! And Celestia, what the hell episode? This does everything! And this is also Unova Brony speaking.
Damn it!
What happened, dude? Just switch to decaf?
I don't want to drink here, but damn!
I just had my first drinks the last weekend, you know? My first drinks.
Of what? Caffeine and cocaine?
Actually, alcohol.
That should be a beverage that is offered somewhere.
This is why I only drink soda and fruit juice and water and lemonade, if that counts as juice.
Back on topic.
On topic, Unova's going to be singing that Chandelier song in 2 weeks.
Don't even dare. I will throw an axe at your skull.
Well, that would be an awesome image. But anyway, so I was going to go around and have everybody say what they thought about this episode, but looks like we already did that. So good night, everybody.
Oh, no. Don't you dare. We need to elaborate on what we are talking about.
Alright, fine.
Get back in here.
Alright. Guess I didn't have time to hit up that bar after all, but alright. First up is Valis. What did you think of this episode?
Well, I'm probably going to start the showboating, but yeah, this episode was really fun. I mean, it was fun seeing Celestia and Luna's dynamic of her being perky and Luna being sour in the morning. And Starlight was fantastic in this. She really was the best part of this whole episode. So overall, I'm happy.
So, any particular high points, low points?
The high point for me was definitely during Starlight's nightmare. And kind of low point, more like I can see why people be mad, was Twilight's reactions to her doing stuff, to put it shortly.
I can see that. Twilight's this portrait.
I understand, but
side.
Honey, no, honey.
Anything particular about it, or did it just annoy you?
It was more like, while yes, Twilight, I understand why you react this way, it's like, this is not going to help you look good at all. It is not. And also, the name of Celestia's evil ego.
Evil alter ego, you mean?
Yeah. Needs more time in the oven for a better name. Sorry, even though I don't like Nightmare Moon, the name's better. She wins by the better name.
Daybreaker.
I mean, like for me, I would just definitely make all the fairy tale references I want because hey, fairy tale has dragons. Daybreaker was a legendary book in the first few episodes of Fairy Tail.
Well,
This is
I
not
think
the
Solar
anime.
Flare's already taken.
I mean, that, like, yeah, Daybreaker, that's kind of like right up there with Roundbringer or,
Despite that, though,
Rain Clouder.
but despite that, though, dang, she be sassy. Also, I would pay so much gems to see that fight. Pay-per-view, all of it. I want to see that fight right now.
I think the closest we're ever going to get is a fight between Batman and Superman. Or even counterparts of them. Except the movie, okay? Anything but the movie. Anything else, like The Dark Knight Returns, that is fine with me.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's what possibility I guess some people are starting to bring up. Could Daybreaker turn up again? Is like all the hinting she's doing, trying to get into Celestia's psyche, saying you totally want to be me. Is that a precursor of things to come?
Well, I actually like that because it is what Celestia could eventually be if she were to go down a darker path. When it's my turn, I'll explain more on that.
Alright. Well, anything else, Valis?
No, overall, that's my opinion. This episode was fun and I enjoyed it. So, next up on the list?
Anime Wolf Gamer.
Okay, so this episode was just so damn amazing. I liked everything about it, which, I like Starlight. I like that Celestia has development along with Luna that actually makes sense. And the fact that it took us this long to get it, despite how easy it would have been, it's better late than ever. Yet, I can't put it on the top of my episodes, at least not in video format whenever I do a top list, because some controversy sort of came up during that time, and I'm having a hard time figuring out if that really affects the episode. If that really affects the episode.
What controversy? And hey, there you are.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Damn, it's like you were right.
Dude, I was late.
Well, here we have past
time.
analysis.
Hello
there.
Hola.
Just in time.
Hello.
Turn.
Hey, Past.
How you
How's it
doing
going?
on this fine evening?
Okay,
Pretty good.
To explain, but there was a controversy that today's episode sort of stole an idea from the show, or at least they stole a design from a certain artist. At least it happened. It's supposed to be like Daybreaker. That design that we saw right there actually came as a fan art first. Like there was like a lot of evidence supporting that one of the artists that works on the show had stolen it, which is why I'm debating if I should put this as a really good episode, but yet I cannot put it on my list anywhere because that will mean it just bothers me that the potential of that idea being stolen, it just
Not sure what to say about that. Does the artist mind if they use the design?
From what I've seen, he seems more upset how he's not informed about this earlier. And the person who stole it ended up backpedaling. The thing is that there was a closer disagreement, and it's a long, complicated story, and I don't know if I should really. I really like this episode, I really do, but that controversy is what's keeping me from giving it a spot in the top list and all that.
Maybe we should wait till all the details come out about that, because that could just turn to a whole cluster bomb of
And the fact of penalizing the episode because of some outside drama about a character design and how Hasbro
I'm more penalizing on the fact that there's a potential fact that the design of Daybreaker could be possibly stolen from a hardworking artist. And you know me, I have my stance like I have my stance on people stealing art from other people. Stealing is, copying is not is simple form of
It's not
flattery
cool,
and
but
laziness.
I don't really think that like that alters my perception of the episode that much. I still loved it. So,
Ditto.
spoiler
On that
alert,
level, I
loved
would
it.
agree. Like,
Damn,
punish
who
or
would debate
vindicate a
ya?
thief. Punish or vindicate a thief based on whether or not he is a thief. Rate an episode bad or good based on whether it was bad or good. Like, you keep in perspective what things pertain to.
I like everything about this episode. It's just that hearing the information about how, with the artist getting his work stolen, being put on the show and taking their credit, it does not sit well with me.
Understood.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the episode. Like, I think it's one of Starlight's best. It's one of the best Starlight show center focused episodes, and it shows that she's actually getting so much screen time that I actually feel like that she is now a permanent member of the main 6.
You mean main 7?
Oh, main
Aha!
7. Well, main 7. Main 7. But yeah, she's finally getting she's finally getting all the screen time in the world and actually developing herself as a character.
Agreed.
Alright. Jordan Lego Comics, then, I guess your turn? Unless you have any final thoughts to give anime. I'll take that as a no. Alright.
Super! Alright, so I definitely agree that this is one of Starlight's best episodes yet. I don't think we've ever seen her interacting with both of the princesses at the time. Well, we did see her interact with Princess Luna in her heroic journey, aka To Where I'm Back Again. But I don't think we've ever seen her interact with Celestia before. And why she switches their cutie barks, I definitely agree that this was a good idea because it helps the two sisters get a better perspective of each other's daily lives. Like, they have a better understanding of each other, and that brings them closer together. Because without it, I think they would still be cold and more distant from each other. And so, as for Daybreaker being Celestia's dark, evil counterpart, one of the things I like about these lawfully good superheroes or characters is facing what they could have been if they chose a dark, bad path. Like, recently, a video game that just came out, Injustice 2, that's a DC video game. Its prequel, Injustice Gods Among Us, is the start of the series. And in this series, Superman, my favorite superhero, was tricked by the Joker into killing his wife Lois and their unborn son while simultaneously detonating a nuke in Metropolis. And so Superman finally just snaps. He is not going to take it up with anymore, and he goes on this evil dictatorship-like role for the next 5 years, and Batman builds up a resistance. But what all that has to do is the final level of the first game, you get to play as the good-hearted Superman, which Batman from the Injustice universe pulls over into their universe. And so what I love is that in the final boss battle, it's the good-hearted Superman versus the evil Injustice Superman. So what I like is how Celestia faces Daybreaker. Like, I just love how these heroes face against their dark, evil counterparts as they see a darker reflection of themselves. And by defeating them and conquering them, that is a way of them going farther down the lighter path.
Yeah, that's actually really nice. Yeah. Next up, who?
It's me. Okay.
I think I'm a little out of breath, so...
Oh,
Respira.
I feel like I'm about to be like completely like de-oxenized as soon as I'm finished with my portion. The viewers goes nothing.
Oh, this ought to be good.
The first thing I would like to point out is that, I feel like this episode, compared to like all the other episodes of the Dreamscape, is probably like my easiest, most favoriteest episode of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic that has to deal with the dream. Don't grammar Nazi me, Jordan.
I prefer Grammar Geek.
More power to you.
Okay, but anyway, what I'm trying to say is that basically, like, the reason why I really do like the Dreamscape and how I feel like it has like the biggest potential of fan fiction for in the case of like say my favorite video game series Persona, which I'm super enthusiastic fanatic about it, is the fact that you can easily face off against your inner demons and such, and the fact that it can be molded into any sort of environment that you would want for a background and such, which creates all these unlimited possibilities. Now, the reason why I'm bringing up this is because for Starlight's dream in this episode, the fact that they said that if they didn't solve this nightmare, she would receive mental, like, she would get like a mentally damaged or like something akin to that. Like, what was the words from that scene? If anyone remembers,
it could have grave consequences on Starlight's psyche.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the point of the episode in which I was basically like, this is Planet Bloom and Gloom stream sequence. This is Planet Bloom and Gloom, because basically the reason why I'm saying this is because like it just relates back to like a Persona 5 about like what happens when you let like the bad guys' psyche get damaged by destroying like their evil alter ego or letting it still affect them, like the nightmare in this case. And the fact that we could possibly have like comatose Starlight and like say an alternate timeline and such, just all the fanfiction possibilities there. Well, it's not only just the fanfiction possibility, but also like the grave stakes that is being like the guardian for the Dreamscape, and how much like in danger Equestria was, since Celestia wasn't really taking over Luna's position essentially during that time.
What kind of consequences would there be? Like post-traumatic stress disorder? I don't know how that works.
Well, I mean, like, there's a multitude of possibilities, like, say, that, for example, or maybe like a full, or maybe just a full-on, like, a loss of, like, happiness that could easily lead to, like, more antagonists showing up, like, more rotten ponies.
Or she would just go into depression or something like that.
Oh, yes, that too. There's a lot of things that could happen if you mess up with one's mind.
You think?
I know, and
Yeah.
it just keeps on getting better because the fact that Daybreaker, in a sense, might not be like Starlight's like imagining, but Celestia's imagining of like a corrupted self when she entered it, and she was filled with self-doubt of like doing Luna's job essentially, led the creation of such an evil alter ego. And the fact that it was very dominant in the episode, I don't think it was like clearly because the episode wanted to be like, hey, let's focus on Daybreaker. I think this clearly was a consequence of what Celestia didn't know what she was getting herself into when she was trying to help Starlight, because she helped created this monster, just like how Luna created the Tantabus back in season 5, but it's even more better portrayed this way.
But that's sass, though.
Oh, don't get me started on Daybreaker sad, because oh my god, ella es so caliente. She is hot. She is the best. She looks amazing. Like, oh my god, I just love her personality.
Respira.
And then like he continues on with like her essentially like an evil version of Celestia would definitely be number one in everything. The most egotistical pony of all, and the fact that she is an alicorn makes all too sense that would be her evil side. But the fact they did it so well, and Nicole Oliver basically beat Tabitha St. Germain and the ham department. It was like, thank you for giving Nicole something to ham on. We never get that opportunity because she usually does like kind-hearted characters like Cheer Lee and Celestia. So it was definitely like a great showing for Nicole Oliver, which now I'm just like, I'll probably want to get something signed of Daybreaker from her now, just because of like, you impress me. Like, you are so much better than Nightmare Moon's the portrayal. Even when
if they make like a multiverse story where Celestia actually did go bad and turn into Daybreaker, then maybe.
That's a fun concept. I'm pretty sure the comics are going to cover that one day.
Oh my god.
I hope they do.
I would so
Or if not, then some fanfic writers will. I hope
so as well, Jordan. But also continuing on with from this, Daybreaker herself, the fact that Luna, like when she came to like assist Celestia, even though she couldn't help at all because of like their talent swap, she gave Celestia the self-confidence needed to actually confront against this issue, which is sort of like a spiritual successor to Princess's Dream of Magic Sheep. And when she got self-confidence from the main six, so now Luna is doing the same to Celestia, which is, oh my god, this actually feels very strong in the continuity department in a sense, if you think about it in that sort of fashion. And I love it.
Very nice.
And then continuing on, comparing it to like what you were talking about earlier, Valis, with like the comics. For me, I would consider this episode to be the other side of the coin that we never got to see with the micro series with Luna. Celestia's night job, essentially. And I feel like it was a good approach to like actually focus more on Celestia's position, like show a little bit more of engagement while still showing a bit of Luna, because in this case for Celestia, she was the one that we barely got much of anything. Luna was able to be appreciated by many of the fans, was able to get some characterization, was able to get a lot of appreciation all the way back in season 1 and season 2, and then continuing on for like season 5 with the Princess's Dream of Magic Sheep. But Celestia, she really barely had anything, so I felt like they actually did they actually did the right choice and focusing a little bit more on Celestia and kind of showing like a bit of like the flaws that we don't see, because for Luna, we sort of know the grasp of her personality. Celestia, we don't know, but I think the reason why we're showing like a lot more of Celestia personality, especially in season 7, and why now all of a sudden I think like it might actually work in the context of the show with like how she was portrayed earlier, and why it would make sense why she might seem like a new personality given to her in season 7. The reason why is because like it's been like over 2 years since like the beginning of season 1 and such. So like after like a year of like her still being the princess while Twilight was still being a unicorn, and then Twilight all of a sudden becomes an alicorn, and even then she was still being shown as like very much in the perfect highlight. And basically in one of the most unpopular episodes of season 5, Slice of Life, we see both of them bickering. And I think that's the crux of why this all works. You see sisters arguing. But we didn't see any more of that. We just thought, oh, that was just one highlight from the episode 100, right? No, we get it expanded in this episode, in which basically Celestia is still acting like her perfect Sona, essentially to Starlight. Meanwhile, Luna is very grumpy about it while still not talking about the issue. Luna's a lot more showing about her issues this time, probably in comparison to like how she was 1,000 years ago, before the Nightmare Moon incident. But then when the facade drops as soon as Starlight actually confronts both princesses, that was when we got some of the best facade removal of Celestia we ever got in this show. And by Jove, it was gorgeous.
And that's true.
I just, like, this episode did so much. Like, for one, I was for one, like before this episode, I was a Luna fan, if only because of the micro series comic. That was the only thing that was strongly putting me into the path of being a Luna fan. I wasn't really engaged with her at all during season 1 when people were doing fan interpretations of her before season 2. I did like her, but I never really was a big fan of Luna. Celestia, I was very much anti as soon as the season 4 finale happened when she pulled that dumb idea for dealing with Tierek. And it took such a long time for me to even get over that, to just be met with her. But this episode alone, like the premiere, it showed her in a bit of a jovial sense, laughing at her student acting the same way as she did. Apparently, retconning some of the stuff that we thought she was thinking back during season 1. But with this episode, it just not only improved on that train of thought of Celestia showing this side of herself, but just went through it like a bullet train, essentially going in rush hour, and just basically impressed the hell out of me to the point in which Celestia is now my favorite princess. I actually like her persona and her vices a lot more than Luna. I think I'm a bigger fan of that than Luna's down and dreary attitude, really. To be honest,
I'm still in the Friendship Federation, though. Still Princess Twilight.
Okay. And I think that's a nice transition, Jordan, to give me my thoughts about Twilight in this episode.
I think you might want to take a breather first. You might want to take a deep breath first.
Okay, for Twilight in this episode, as shown in the 8-bit reaction that I was in with second, I was just overwhelmingly positive about the way she was portrayed. Even though I can agree that what she adds to the story is very minimalistic to none, not whatsoever. It just feels like, for her, it just clearly shows the faults of her not being able to assist with the situation, which is why the map chose Starlight in the first place.
Actually, showing her there, well, one, it does add comic relief. I mean, she was adorable in this.
Oh,
and yet that pun was intended. But also, it shows why it chose Starlight and not Twilight. Because I don't think Twilight would have done what Starlight did, because Starlight was more unbiased. As she says in the episode, and I quote, "She's your mentor. I think you might be biased."
Oh, yes. And I just now had a thought. Even more so, I would have to say, in this sense, it would sort of, I would sort of make more Persona 5 parallels in the fact that Twilight is very much like Makoto pre-Phantom Thief, in which she's very obedient to the higher powers and just does what they tell her to do, essentially. That's basically the core of her personality. She's the honor student. She's the student that overachieves and doesn't want to fail at anything. All she does so is to make sure that her higher ups are appeased all the time, and that there's no sense of dissension among the ranks, essentially. Meanwhile, Starlight, shown from the very beginning of season 5, even though she was shown as an authority figure, she's very rebellious against the system currently. Even willing to entrap a princess, as she clearly shows in the premiere of season 5.
Do we really have to bring up Starlight's dark past again? I already said that in my reaction video.
Well, excuse me, princess.
I prefer Prince, but I don't have a horn on my head.
Yeah, get out of here with that.
But for Starlight, even going to a cutie remark, in which she basically was screw the rules, I'm basically rewriting history just so that I could get revenge on the ponies who ruined my new authority over cutie marks, essentially. and then just seeing her still somewhat becoming this protege to Twilight, but still having the sense of going against the established system by befriending a lot of the antagonistic forces before, Trixie and others, for example. Just just really shows that she goes to the friendship in a different perspective compared to Twilight. Twilight likes to stick with her group of main six and Spike. Meanwhile, for Starlight, she constantly makes new connections with other ponies, those who are antisocial, antagonistic, very trollish, and otherwise, and then just showcases like different sides to them in the same process, which is something I wanted Twilight to do, but now that I know that that's probably not going to happen since they want to do the princess status quo with Twilight for a lot of the time, I'm just going to have to accept that Starlight is basically all my desires for like what I wanted Amending Fences to, what I wanted Twilight to do after Amending Fences to be like, and put all my hopes on her now. She's basically the beacon of hope for this show for me now. So, yeah, she's definitely risen a little bit more higher in my list. I'm not so sure rare, but I think right now she's probably like my fourth favorite pony right now.
Really? She's my second favorite.
Well, technically my fourth favorite character, since Spike would be number one, tied for second would be Pinky and Fluttershy, and I think Starlight would be fourth.
I think Rainbow Dash is number one and Starlight's number two for me.
It makes sense. You carry a lot of connection to Rainbow Dash, so it's acceptable. Why?
So speaking of this, like I did like how the fact this episode is sort of like a map episode. I see that they're still. I'm surprised that's the biggest story arc that they're still going after season 5. It will be. So this is like what, the third season that they're still using it. So
yeah.
So it's got to be. So that means that the map might actually contain something that is a surprise to them. That, and I'm kind of hoping that maybe at some point they do a CMC episode with the map. At least, it shows that Starlight can actually be contacted by the map. So what's not to say that those three can actually do it too?
Yeah. I definitely feel like they're probably going to do that for season 8 based on My Little Pony's track record, really.
Probably.
Yeah, because that's usually what their track record is. One very interesting idea they do with like a MacGuffin per season.
Continue on what you were saying about Twilight.
Okay, Twilight was very much like, as you said, Jordan, the comic relief for this episode. Also trying to be the encouraging teacher that we all wanted her to be back in season 6, but never really was. Because, yeah. Seriously, like doing the Celestia approach for season 6 for Starlight wasn't really the best effort for her. And also enforcing friendship lessons to her wasn't really the best course of action, plus felt like it was forcing stuff onto us, the audience, really. And then continuing on, like Twilight showed like a very interesting imagery with like her being displayed as a ballerina alicorn, which I never thought I would see her dressed up as one. I mean, like, the only other interesting pony we ever got to see outside of like their usual naked pony self is Cheerilee back in season 6 in that Evil Carts episode.
Oh yeah, that episode.
Yeah, but
it was average for me.
Well, yeah, but anyway, continuing onward, that the end of the episode just immediately had me in stitches, just like, tell me all the juicy bits, and also I need to like give punishment according to necessary based on your actions on rebelling against the princesses, and the fact like in the middle of the episode in which you said like the princesses aren't perfect. That's basically like Twilight voicing like the way that the writers were writing for Celestia pre-season 5, essentially.
You said the princesses aren't the best in the same sentence, and it's making me nervous.
Yeah, it's like Starlight's like the fan base. Like, do you understand why we have issues with the princesses? Why we even made a huge fan panic all the way back at season 3's finale?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even Superman's not a god.
Yeah. Though there is still some things some people might highlight to not like him for still. But anyway.
Yeah, I respect their opinions, but Superman is still number one for me. And Anyway, sorry for interrupting. Continue.
Gotcha, Jordan. So, like, aside from that, let's actually talk about Luna, because she's the one I least talked about in this episode.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's really talked about her.
Well, for Luna, her part was actually all right. I would actually go and contradict what some people say, like saying like Luna's part of the episode wasn't like fully living to the potential that Celestia had, but. And like in the fact that they felt like what Luna did was really like just smiling and raving like Twilight did like at the season 4 finale. But it was a lot more of the fact that that perfect facade that Celestia had was used a lot more applicably, because it deflected a lot of possible negative criticisms from the news outlet, which was shown later on as a consequence that Luna wanted to like fix, very similar to how I would basically want to try to fix up like issues like that day were to happen in my life. But then
it does seem like Luna does love children. I mean, she spent a lot of time in the dream realm with the CMC before they got their cutie marks, and she did spend time with children in the Nightmare Night episode. And also, I have one nitpick about the newspaper. Don't you think the newspaper would have been published the next day, not the very next hour? I don't really think that newspapers can be published that quickly.
Then again, look to the New York Times or the New York Post.
This is Equestria, and also, about
magic. Don't question it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I did say it was a nitpick.
I mean, I could somewhat take it more realistically, because it was like possibly like a midday or like a late night edition.
I think it would have been midday.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I felt like Luna's like contribution to the episode, while not as strong as say the micro series depiction of Luna dealing with like kibitz and essentially dealing with like democratic stuff. At least we were shown some democratic stuff, like the town hall, and heard like a funny diatribe about like, wow, that problem only took us 3 hours to solve, and then Luna's just like, oh god, I never want to heir vocal opinions ever again. For that,
really? Because we kind of are giving vocal opinions right now.
No, I meant for Luna, not for us. But then again, she would probably be tortured. But like, and then like for her nightmare segment, the fact that we got a pony losing all of her teeth. I think that's possibly one of the most graphic things we ever see from My Little Pony.
Yeah. Next, you see multicolored blood or something. But according to the Nostalgia Critic, apparently blood that's not red is apparently less gory. For some reason.
I mean, then again, it works for Danganronpa for some reason.
What is that rated?
M.
Okay. Ew.
Like, overall, I'd just like to say this episode, it actually beat Equestria Games for me. It actually became my favorite episode of the entire series. And so late in the game, too. Like, you would think, like, oh, I don't know, like the later season would have, like, any good gems that would rival in power, like, say, season 2 episodes, season 4 episodes, or season 1 episodes, depending on your preference. But for me, this episode really had, like, the same effect that Equestria Games had for me, in which, like, Equestria Games changed my opinion of Spike, making him my favorite character. This episode kind of brought back the hope of Twilight as an actually good character again in the later seasons. And for Celestia to become my favorite princess out of all of them. And me feeling like basically like Daybreaker beating Nightmare Moon for like my favorite nightmare form.
Well, Nightmare Moon couldn't really take the heat. I am not apologizing for that again.
Never apologize for it because fire is definitely better than darkness. Brimstone, after all. You gotta burn people up. That's why hell is very prominently depicted with fire instead of just darkness.
Gulp.
Yeah. Like as you can clearly tell, I'm basically a huge fan of fire elements.
Mm-hmm. So you'd be in the Fire Nation.
I mean, then again, my first Brony convention was when the Fire Nation attack.
Come again?
You know, BronyCon Summer 2012.
Okay.
I don't follow. I don't think I was a
it was
brony at the
really
time.
warm outside.
No, there was actually a case in which like a lighting fixture basically caught on fire, and everyone in the convention hall had to disperse from the Sakarkas convention center, and fire engines were deployed.
Oh, so the Water Nation came to the rescue. That was a terrible joke.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta be honest.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. We all have bad jokes within us every couple of days.
Then again, the Fire Nation attack is kind of a stretch in the first place, it sounds like, but...
It was still a very prominent convention mean in the early Brony days. I remember like it was yesterday. My first convention before I even knew about stuff like Skype and talking over people via internet, you know.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, let's see. The fact that I consider it to be my favorite episode obviously rates it as a top tier episode in my books.
Well, I would give it a 10 out of 10 this season. I think that's the first episode of this season that I'm giving a 10 out of 10 on my new scoring method, the Awesome Meter.
I got
A 10 out of 10 is an awesome.
So, yeah. So overall, like, I don't really have anything negative at all to say about this episode. Like, in fact, I just basically felt like I could actually somewhat defend this episode's faults, if minimal they were, just because of just how the way I think. Like, my brain constantly changes, and I don't think anything would change my thoughts about this episode, even when I usually somewhat change my thoughts according to like if someone actually brings up a very good argument for an episode. Like, say for an example, last week's episode with Pasta bringing up like one of the best arguments for why the episode was displeasing to him.
Wait, wasn't that the Yaks episode, if I remember?
No, that was Honest Apple.
Honest Apple.
Yeah, dude.
Honest Apple.
Not the best episode.
It sucks.
Yeah, one of the worst episodes of season 7. Then we get to the best episode of season 7. Ooh-wee, does that remind you of season 2 a lot?
Oh yeah, it does.
Well, I haven't seen the whole thing of season 2. I didn't become a brony until prior to season 4. So, anything else?
I think you missed the good part.
Sorry, what?
I think you missed a good part.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, season 2 is definitely like the golden age of like Foss, while she was somewhat still there for a little bit before having to depart.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you got anything else? Because Past still hasn't gone yet.
Oh,
He's probably geared up to go by now.
Pass.
Yep.
I'm moving it up to yours. Who's now? Make us proud.
Wait. Can you guys hear me, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait. So, honestly, this is just one more, check for Starlight Glimmer. I thought that this episode was tremendous for her. Like, they did an awesome job of differentiating her yet again from other ponies, and that's not really something that I think we saw in season 6. In season 6, it was kind of you just had very kind of typical episodes like, oh, she doesn't want to do the friendship lessons. Like, she's nervous.
Don't cast spells on your friends!
Yeah, like, none of it really seemed all that interesting then. However, this episode was pretty spectacular. It showed... It actually developed Celestia and Luna, and I think it's safe to say that we haven't really had that happen since season 2 with Luna, but we've never really gotten any development from Celestia, and I really liked that. I mean, has always been my more favorite of the two, and I'm glad that she's finally getting some respect. I liked the cross comparison between Twilight and Starlight. Like, it really kind of how different, how interesting, how interesting Starlight is. Like, it almost makes you wonder, like, did she hardly know much about Celestia when she was a kid? Because I'd imagine that there'd be just about no one in the world of Equestria, like, very few that would actually be willing to do that and would still be classified as a good person, so to speak. The fact that she, swapped their cutie marks for good intentions, that type of thing.
Like, maybe that's not like the first case that happened, but and besides, Celestia and Luna knows that Starlight does not mean it in bad intent, like before. I'm pretty sure that Twilight informed them about who she was before that happened.
I'm not saying that Starlight had bad intent. I'm just saying that her perspective to swap their cutie marks and do it so kind of, I don't know if I'd say it was like nonchalant, but it definitely seemed spur of the moment.
Well, that's one thing I want to bring up because, well, when we met her in season 5, she was doing her magic for selfish reasons. But here in this episode, she's doing it kind of more like, how should I say this? Therapeutic reasons. Like, she was doing it for good intentions. She had much better intentions. She was trying to help them, and she doesn't do them she doesn't swap the cutie marks at first. She tries to have the sisters try to talk about it, but when things were getting out of control, that's when she acted upon instinct.
Still, the fact that she did it is quite a spectacle in of itself. In fact, the episode marvels at it, and it actually states that that's kind of the reason she was picked.
The element of impetuousness.
Yes. Also, I would say that I feel like Daybreaker isn't like a very realistic depiction. Like, I like Daybreaker as a concept, but I think it's more of a fear on Starlight's part, because that was in Starlight's nightmare. That was where that whole Daybreaker thing came from. So it kind of I think it ultimately says more about Starlight, that she thinks that Celestia could turn into that. Like, dang, it kind of presents a picture, sort of a very subtle picture of what Starlight might actually think of Celestia. Like, I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling, I guess, on that point.
Actually, though, that makes me almost worried that this episode thinks it totally did a legit job of showing us Celestia's dark side, and now it's gonna have her turn into Daybreaker down the line. Like, ha! You see, Celestia's dark side is something she is vulnerable to. You see?
The thing is that that wasn't a Celestia nightmare. Celestia didn't fear she'd turn into that.
Yeah, but Daybreaker keeps telling her, like, no, you see, you know you want to be me. I'm worried that this episode thinks that that's totally a legit exploration of Celestia's dark side.
Okay, sorry
Maybe.
to jump in, but so sorry I jumped out. What did I miss?
We're on Past's turn right now.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
No, and I just I can't say more than just this episode did a good job of fleshing out Starlight once again. First we had the great we had the bottling everything up, all bottled up. Then the rock solid friendship, and now this one. Like every single Starlight episode this season has been flawless, absolutely flawless. And
well, I wouldn't say flawless. I mean, rock solid friendships.
Damn, you like bottled up?
Well, she wasn't that bad, but also all bottled up. Trixie's obliviousness, and the main 6 subplots, which wasn't bad, but.
I mean, none of those things really, in my opinion, deter the episode, rank it down. No, I still liked it. I thought...
Seriously?
Some sugary filler is something that can break an A grade to me.
And see, the thing is...
No, seriously, Jordan, like...
What? So we have had 3 episodes... We have had...
I was just giving my opinion.
No, I'm just saying I disagree.
All right.
Yeah, so... What was I going to say? I was talking about...
Said that all 3 episodes of Starlight this season were flawless.
Give them a minute to come up with it.
Yeah. Now I remember. We've had 3 episodes of Starlight Glimmer. All of them, I loved them. This is probably... I don't know which one I like more. This one or Rock Solid Friendship. They're both great. But it's 3 amazing episodes within the season just for the first half. That's amazing compared to last season.
Very true.
I would also say that I'm saying a lot. I would also say that maybe Starlight is kind of up there now. After this season, after what I've seen, I would say that she's either my 2nd or 3rd favorite character, in the show, because of just how developed she's become.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. And she kind of has this, like, I feel like I get her personality more, whereas in the past I was just like, but even, I've kind of clicked the dots more thanks to episodes like these. So, yeah, honestly, job well done. I'm hoping for... with more episodes like these, this could very well be my 2nd favorite season.
So I think the reason for that is because look, as much as I don't think season 6 was awful, and I'm in the middle bag since I found it to be above decent in season 1 and 3. Here's the thing though, like I always feel that season ended up not doing so well because the thing is that during that time, they changed directors around and all that shit because of the movie and all that, and all the main writers had to go help on that because they need to make sure that was a hit. So we are left with just a few people who are basically got lost in direction and just ended up becoming the result of season 6 and the head guy put Starlight in mind as just a secondary character, which is honestly the biggest mistake he ever made because a lot of people actually cared for her, and you think that just putting her in the side of around 90% of the season it's gonna help? No, it's not. And season 7, it seems like they actually got a focus of what they wanted to do, and Glimmer actually was planned ahead to what she was gonna do, and that's why it feels better here. And Royal Problems was the highest at its peak, despite the fact of the possible stolen art, but I digress.
Now, granted, I do think that the season did start off rocky with its celestial advice.
Oh wait, like that. The episode is debatable depending on how you view Starlight, and you know me, I like that episode, but you honestly hate it, which I understand.
Well, maybe I don't hate it. I hate that it acts like Starlight is ready to graduate. I hate that. I don't know
but at least
it's definitely not the worst season thus far. The worst episode.
To be fair, it at least acknowledged that, and that's why she's staying for another season. Don't know what the results is going to be after season 7. Maybe she might actually leave. If she does,
they better not.
Well, if she does leave this season, I would say this: with the amount of
leaving this season.
Well, but if she does, but if she does, she has enough screen time, I would say, okay, fine, maybe she's ready enough to leave and all that shit. But until then, I'd rather they let her get as much screen time as possible before that happens. I mean, it's gonna happen at some point, but we don't know if it's this season or next season.
True.
Thanks a lot, Wolf. You got to that. Starlight leaving the show. Anxiety built up in me again.
Hey, they made it clear that she's gonna leave at some point.
I actually think that the opener of the season suggested that she's probably never going to leave. I'd say that the opener pretty much put those fears to bed.
Well, it certainly said not yet.
And now Wolf just put them back in me.
What I don't understand is Starlight has, I don't know, maybe DHX isn't smart enough to know this. Personally, I kind of think they do. They know that they hardly gave any episodes for Starlight in season 6. It's not hard to see. And Twilight was like, there's so much I have to teach her. She had honestly no reason to send Starlight away. Why would she send her away? Starlight was not in the same situation that Twilight was in with Celestia. That was actually kind of a bit of a flawed comparison, because Twilight's whole thing... What? Oh yeah, Discord basically convinced...
I don't follow.
Twilight that Starlight needed to I'm getting off track.
Well, let's get back.
Point is, Royal Problems is a great episode. Wonderfully, it's just good. There's not much you can say about it. In my opinion, for me, all I can basically say is it was an amazing episode. It gave perspectives of Celestia, Luna, Twilight, and Starlight, and I hope more episodes like this in the future.
Oh, I'm pretty sure there is, because without spoiling it, there's a future episode that I'm really excited for, because it's gonna combine a lot. It's gonna combine a lot of old characters that we've seen in the past.
Good to know.
To analyze.
Well,
I got it. But anyway, well. You know what the rule of thumb is when you get past analysis and me in the same call, right?
Oh, debates?
You hate this episode, don't you?
Well,
no, not hate. More like,
I think this
let us
episode
talk it
is tasty, colorful, empty calorie candy. Pretty much. This is the new toy that is already going to be coming apart at the hinges by next Christmas. It's full of big moments that it knows the fans have had their fingers crossed for, just inviting them to contextualize them and bring the meaning and significance to them, and they essentially have to, because in and of itself we have plot points serving as excuses for these fan service sequences rather than groundwork for them. We have characters defined by their single tendency rather than their dimension, like Twilight, where in Lesson 0 she had to work her way up to where she was falling apart, and showing us how each detail makes it a little bit worse. Now her character is, oh my god, this is so big! Oh my god!
Let's try this out. Let's figure it out.
Celestia's character is essentially anti-Celestia.
I'm very good at defending. I guess I didn't really have much to say, but I will say to that point, every single episode of the show only shows so much of a character. I don't think that there has been a single episode in the show that has shown more than maybe one or two aspects of Twilight's character. This episode did the same thing.
You know, to be fair, second, to be fair, like, the thing is that... Wait, hold on. Sorry, I just ate something. But anyway, what I was saying is this. Like, let's be fair, like, throughout the entire show, they made it very clear that Twilight has huge biases for the Royal Sisters. And that's, you know, and that's always basically how she always sees them and always gets worried whenever something bad happens to them. And this episode kind of shows that.
Well, I mean, she's definitely being used for comedy in this episode. That's why you think she's there. But, like, compare that to, I don't know, Granny Smith running around raising the Zap Apple alarm. And when everyone hears her, hooray, the Zap Apples are coming. And she just stops and says, what a sad. And like, somehow it's just like a perfect little Granny Smith moment. But like Twilight, it's the same joke every time in the same way. It's a hammier version of what she was before, essentially.
Hey, you know, to be
what makes it a joke? What makes it a joke? That's kind of one
or
of
a
my
gag,
things.
whatever, however you want to put it.
Like,
but I can see it because at a certain point, I can understand being annoying because, like, Twilight, you're my mentor. Support me, not freak out. You're not helping me. But I can definitely see you being miffed at it, but I can definitely see it as, like, I can still laugh at it.
I mean, it has some funny lines, to be sure, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's candy. It's like, it's tasty and it's empty calories, and I mean, we've seen it done before better.
Just like in parental guidance, I think that you are seeing something to be a joke that might not, like, what if the intention of putting in Twilight there wasn't necessarily to just give a joke all the time? Like, what if it was actually just to show a comparison between Starlight and Twilight? Like, is that possible? Or is every instance of showing Twilight doing that just, oh, well, it's a joke. It's a joke. So, I mean, like,
Starlight plays off of her, but I mean, if they were attempting, like, anything of major significance of it, that would probably make it even worse to me, because it's not really treating Twilight as it's treating her as a as something to marvel at, for lack of a better word, to gawk at more than to take into any kind of consideration. Like, wow, she's so spastic. Oh, Twilight, leave Starlight alone. She can't handle this.
That's like the perspective of some, like, a very particular kind of brony audience that would look at it that way. I didn't look at it that way. I'm just like, oh, well, that's just kind of one of the Twilight-y things, is Twilight freaks out about Celestia and Luna.
Yeah, this
and
is
even
like
then,
when you
I
put
thought
too
I'd
much
say
sugar
this.
in my lemonade. I'm like, yeah.
You know, if I could say one thing, it at least the
4 or 5 sips.
You know, if I could say one thing, if all those, like, you know, you see that as jokes, let's be fair here, it at least relates to her character, unlike a certain fucking episode about making her afraid of fucking quesadillas.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you that one. I will give you that one.
Yeah,
it's closer
to
a gag indicative of Twilight than the quesadilla thing was.
Leave that one alone.
Hey, second, I'm going to have to interject and say.
Well, you sure? Because we're just getting started here. If this is the point you want to twist me up on Twilight, the side character of this episode.
It's congressional debate again time.
Characters I can be fine with. Quesadillas, leave that alone.
Quesadillas are good. I don't know what Twilight problem is supposed to be there.
No, that was a joke. I'm fine with that. Y'all, leave that alone.
No, seriously,
I think that was just a joke. Or
seriously, I swear to God, they were trying to imitate The Simpsons with Homer and donuts. The exact opposite.
I was going to say, what you're saying about this episode, I honestly feel like that comparison would sort of be more drawn out to an episode from season 4 that everyone seems to really like, and I feel like it fits all those qualifications.
Do tell.
Pinkie Pride.
It's been a while since I've seen season 4. Which episode would you be referring to?
Pinkie Pride, actually.
That one.
The funny thing about that is I do have a problem with a portion of Pinkie's Pride, so... is it Pinkie Pride or Pinkie Pride? But whichever. So actually, I might agree with you depending on what you say. Like, I still consider Pinkie Pride a great episode. I think, 3/4 of it constitute a great episode, and that's enough for me to say it's over the line. But anyway, continue.
I was going to say that for Pinkie Pride, why I was mentioning it, because I felt like the arc they had with Pinkie in the episode about her being depressed that there was someone actually better than her, and even though the episode was about her being prideful in in her talent and feeling like she was inadequate for someone who was just traveling around and such, while it was very simplified, the episode didn't really how should I put it? It didn't really make it very momentous in the sense of this is groundbreaking character for Pinkie. It felt more of it was a one-off character thing with Pinkie, if Applejack, comparing it with say Applejack with a certain conflict she had in one episode was to be there, and then all of a sudden just disappeared because for plot's sake, and also. And also, the elements that combine the episode together wouldn't really make sense, even if both main characters, such as Pinkie and Cheese, are both nonsensical at first glance. It still doesn't really make for a sturdy foundation when the ending kind of revealed the conflict wouldn't really happen in the first place if he truly was thankful for Pinkie for being a huge inspiration for her and wasn't even apologizing to her at all.
Also, side note, sorry, why is Starlight on the map again? I just want to make clear why that is a thing.
Okay.
Because the fans have been asking for it, have been writing fan fiction about it.
I thought it was because she's part of the main 6 now, or main 7.
Which she
I
is
know.
There's something I've been dying to ask you.
Canon in the world of universe.
Mm-hmm.
Second, there's something I've been dying to ask you. So if you don't find what Twilight did to be funny, I mean, the freaking
funny
out.
lines in it.
If you don't,
it was it's like that comedy that, okay, it's funny a couple of times, but it's also kind of obvious. It's also you see it repeated, 5-10 times. It's okay, you're not as funny as you think. You need to do something new now. Find something new to joke about now.
See, but okay. Then I think my question should change a tad. If you found it funny the first bit, how do you know that it was intended to be as funny as you found it the first time you watched it? Because I don't honestly know if that was intended to be a joke or if it was just intended to be an aspect of Twilight's character. In this episode, it could have gone both. It could go both ways, really. Maybe that was a joke. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't truly intended to be a joke. I don't know.
Well, I mean, thinking it was intended to be that funny is the nice interpretation, because otherwise that means they're really trying to give a ham-fisted depiction of Twilight. That's like her character is.
How is
Oh my god!
Like, no, but like she's shown that before in like lesson 0. How is it out of character now? How is it?
She played off of something that was happening that drove her more and more over the line, whereas here it's like everything that happens to her gets that same reaction. Like, map, first image, map, Starlight's cutie mark. Like, What? Hey, do you think the sisters could be having a conflict? Spike! They would never fight again, would they? Like,
and I actually get it.
This is really
At this point, it's more like, honey, Twilight, you should know this by now.
Okay.
And yet, it's
however,
more like, bruh, really?
The reason that Twilight freak out in lesson 0 was a gradual thing was because it started at the beginning of the day. If you had started it by the end of the day and she realized, holy crap, it's been a week, it's already past sundown, she would be freaking out just as hard. The fact is that in that episode, it was focusing on one thing that she was freaking out about, and it gave a timeline where it would only focus on that one thing. Whereas with this, I mean, they're all sort of interrelated. Everything that she freaks out about is interrelated to like the next thing. So, it all revolves around the same thing, which is her reverence for the princesses. So,
well, they both revolve around the same thing. I would argue that what
it's not bad.
Was dimensionality. It showed us the thought process behind everything she was doing, what she was hoping that each thing she said or thing she did was would accomplish. Like here, I don't think she said one helpful or even very thoughtful thing. She was there to put pressure on Starlight and be hammy and over the top. I mean, I don't get a sense of Twilight from it. I get a sense of waka 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 Twilight, everybody.
And I think that part is the problem.
But this is a bad side of her character. I don't see, like, her freak out in lesson 0 was just as disproportionate as these freakouts were.
It is.
How it's a bad side of her
And
character.
I'm fine with that.
Talk to Twilight or to Starlight rather, and show us how the approach Starlight is taking is superior. Like, give us something to show us how it's a characteristic and not just a gag.
Okay. Then.
Sometimes the character can just be entirely wrong with their perspective. Like, it can sometimes be just not helpful.
I mean,
You think?
I mean, like, seriously, look at season 6 with No Second Prances, an episode I don't really like at all because of Twilight in that episode just being completely unbearable. This feels very much in line with that.
Well, I mean, at least Twilight, we see some of her thought process. That, I mean, granted, I had the same reaction to the No Second Prances thing, but at least we see, like, what she's thinking about with Trixie's past appearances. We see her offering up alternate solution, as hammy and forced as those alternate solutions were.
They told us,
and towards the end, she puts it together. And granted, this episode didn't need her to make her part of the point and have her put it together. But I mean, it's like at very least we saw the thought process, that we saw how it grows and changes and plays off of what's around it. Like, it was essentially like the one trait, the overreaction, pretty much defined Twilight for all of this episode.
However, like, the fact that, like, she took those actions in this episode of, like, her actually witnessing her protege is very similar to the very first map episode we ever got in season 5. Like, even though there wasn't really, like, a prop for her to do that certain spell, she was still with, like, Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie in spirit via her guide to Griffinstone, essentially.
Not sure what your point is. Are you talking about the cutie map or Make New Friends but
Cutie map?
Cutie map or
The map.
Lost Treasure of Griffinstone?
No, the map.
The Lost Treasure of Griffinstone.
Okay. You're talking about the Lost Treasure of Griffinstone.
Yes, the first non-premiere map episode. Like, it feels like Twilight has, like, like this overwhelming anxiety to like witness like all these important missions for like equestrian such that the map dictates. And from
Ellen has anxiety over everything.
Guys, remember in Made in Manhattan where Twilight was bored and she was hoping to be called by the map?
That was so well done. It was like granted, like make new friends or the Hofields and the McColts kind of botched it by having it like, oh, she gets her mission. Look at that, resolved. But like those other 2 episodes did a pretty good job of like having her explain what it was she wanted, that what was affecting her, and how it was tied into stuff we'd already seen. Like she's the princess now, she doesn't get to do as much, and how it's getting worse as she doesn't get to go on these missions. Like even that much showed us a thought process behind what her reaction was.
Knowing the thought process isn't what counts. It's whether or not the thought process makes sense to her character. In the No Second Prances, has Twilight ever, despite in that episode, showed this sense of distrust? No. Twilight has never been.
And there's a reason not to trust Trixie. She went out and bought an amulet, an evil dark amulet, to get revenge on everyone.
He accepted the apology that Trixie gave at the end.
Accepted the apology. She didn't accept that Trixie is a
we can debate to our place term.
Trustworthy soul now.
See, I don't think forgiveness and trust are the same thing. I think in Magic Duel, at the end of Magic Duel, Twilight accepted Trixie's apology. But did Trixie really earn Twilight's trust after that? I don't really think so.
Yeah, and to be the thing is that they never even bother making another episode showing what their stance is. In fact, they left that in the comics, which really annoyed me because, now that they're not considered that canon, now,
Twilight, the princess of friendship, apparently doesn't think that Trixie needed a friend until, look at that. Trixie, she kind of seems sad. She's crying. Oh my gosh, Trixie's crying because she doesn't have any friends. I didn't know that not having friends would make someone cry, even though I'm the princess of friendship.
It's a word convenience.
Right after she backstabbed Starlight's trust and proved Twilight's fears about her totally founded?
Yeah. And I think her tearfulness, seeing Trixie in that state, I think that's seeing that Starlight was seeing that Trixie did have remorse for her actions. And
the fact that Trixie had remorse, one, disproves Twilight in that episode. The fact that everything that Trixie was doing was only a reaction to Twilight also justifies, as in, if Twilight didn't have a hissy over Trixie's past behavior, none of that stuff would have happened. Trixie wouldn't have had
tried to use
alibi.
Twilight's friend to satisfy her self-admitted long-standing inferiority complex towards Twilight.
Yeah, she wouldn't do it. She wouldn't have any fuel. How do you have fuel if Twilight is completely comfortable with you being her, a friend of her apprentice? You have no fuel.
The mistrust unfounded if you're willing to do that because
I think she probably had that
inferiority complex.
I think she probably had that before she walked into Twilight, because, wait a minute. Are we still talking about Royal Problem, or are we talking about other episodes?
Okay, well, this Twilight debate admittedly has spiraled off to the side into,
I mean,
it's gone out of the ring and into the walkway, the combatants still hitting each other.
Yeah, I think we've gotten off track. A lot. I don't think we're even on course anymore.
Well,
I think we were finished before we talked about Royal Problems, so we just ended up just discussing about.
What happened was I was giving my speech, and then everybody wanted to talk about Twilight, which I don't know. I'm surprised that was the one, because that's such a side point to the whole, which was that this episode doesn't mind in general defining characters by their traits. What I thought was going to be the one was when I said that Celestia's character in this one was basically anti-Celestia.
Wait, what?
Anti-Celestia? What?
Yeah, get it? Because Celestia, before she was, let me see, composed and not petty, so now she's not composed, and she is petty. She was knowing and ready before, so now she's not knowing and not ready. Like, okay, is she particularly any of those things? Like, are those any kind of definitive characteristics of hers?
Have we had any episode that focused on Celestia at all?
Oh, can you tell?
Nope.
How about this? Can you tell me after this episode what is Celestia like? What is this version of Celestia like?
And
Dignified in front of her.
Well, she's not a god.
She's dignified in front of her royalties. She's dignified when she has to be, but she has a funny side, which we've already kind of seen that. And
So what is
she does have
funny.
No,
What's her sense of humor like?
she has a lighthearted side. I think that's a lighthearted side.
We already got that much from we did get that much from season 1.
And that's the problem.
No, but see,
Like,
the problem that the problem that you have with Celestia being presented in this way is the same problem that people have with the Wonderbolts being, having them be changed. When you only see a character from a public eye perspective, especially if we're talking about like a politician, and then you have an episode later where you see this character more intimately, like you actually see them go through a personal problem, you are going to see two different things because that is what politicians do.
I'm fine with filling in a character, like look at Mr. Miyagi, for instance, like when we see him as the wise mentor and the karate master. It's like in the very same movie, we see him pulling pranks, we see him drunk and falling to pieces even, but the thing is, he's still Mr. Miyagi while he's doing that. You see how it plays into his personality, how he is still sort of you believe that he still has that patience and that kindness and that inner strength. Now, it's, this version is, it's almost aggressively like, get it? She's not! Like, this is, like, I think this is actually the bland, boring protagonist who's just like you trait, adapting to survive. Like, before it was, okay, we don't want to see ourselves as
she has a problem
so, okay, this character that you're supposed to latch onto is good and nice and doesn't break any rules. Now it's, okay, we can't identify with anyone who's too perfect, so, get this character has to be told that they do not have to be perfect. They make mistakes. They are silly sometimes.
How is one of the things that Celestia in this episode shows that she's been keeping this locked up? She hasn't been talking about it. Honestly, if it wasn't, she would not have.
One, that's pure speculation. Two, we've seen her talking to characters who she doesn't have any particular relationship to, like Starlight. Here, she lets out like this, petty side or this insecure side.
She hasn't
really
just one-on-one. We haven't seen her that before, but
everyone else acts dignified to Celestia, essentially. Like, everyone else just keeps on going to like her polite political side, but no one actually goes and confronts her like a person of error.
We've seen her one-on-one with Twilight in the earlier season. She didn't really act this way.
It's a student-teacher relationship. That's barely the same as a sister-to-sister relationship.
I've seen her talking with the Cake family, the nice ponies who were serving her tea.
Some family that she hardly knows.
Them a little
she's going to be
She's going to be.
But the random pupil who she's never met before, she's going to let out these insecurities to. And you know what? I might not even I have no doubt in my mind that they're doing it because they like the thought of a character who seems all proper being stripped down and revealed, but I might not even mind it if there was anything that interesting in and of itself to latch on to about it. I've asked everybody, okay, what is this version of Celestia like? Nobody can give me a satisfactory answer not based on pure speculation.
But the fact that she has a opinion, but she keeps it to herself until Starlight
Earlier seasons gave us that much.
It's also the fact that, for Celestia, a lot of the times she wasn't really challenged back when the 1,000 years in which she then had Luna, essentially. So
what part of Celestia's authenticity has come out in past episodes where we find out that, she was just hiding some piece of information? When have we ever learned that Celestia was keeping her feelings tucked in?
Come again?
When have we ever seen an episode where Celestia tucked in her feelings, where it was very clear that she was tucking in her feelings? In this episode, we saw that.
The Hoof episode, even as much as that, she had she's watching these ponies react to everything she does, so she screws with them a little to lighten the mood. It's like the implication every time has been that she's the one who's been around the block the most compared to everyone in the room, but doesn't have anyone to talk to about.
We also kind of saw characterization of Celestia in when she was telling Twilight about her stress about sending Twilight away to Ponyville. Like that one scene where she was talking to herself in front of the Royal Guards.
Yeah, that was the earlier scene in this season written by the same writers. It's her character is anti-Celestia, not composed. She is not sure of what she's doing.
She shows one little bit of weakness, and she's apparently she's lost everything that made her her. Okay, in response to
when they ham it up, I think that's what they're trying to do. I mean, we've seen characters are defined by maturity and patience.
Anyone remember the series premiere? Actually,
in response to your bird in the Hoof episode, you compared the two. In that episode, Celestia was hiding just information. Like, she wasn't hiding feelings, hiding just a fact. She was just hiding, this is a phoenix. That's what hiding feelings and hiding a fact are very
not the same thing.
Yeah, they're very different.
Well, hiding, then in that case, hiding feelings is a habit that is not a personality characteristic.
That's not a personality.
Really? I think it is, because you're being you're secluding yourself. You're kind of, dare I say it, you're kind of bottling things up, sort of.
You're kind of just putting a wall of happiness around you so that only your subjects can really see like that wall of happiness all the time.
That's your interpretation of it. This episode didn't say that.
What you're saying, second, is you're saying that hiding your feelings and making it seem as though you have feelings towards your sister that you don't show because for whatever reason you don't want to show them. Apparently that's not part of her personality. Apparently that's
so you're
not
saying you got a strong personality sense of Celestia because from the thing
I got more of a sense of her personality from this episode than I've ever gotten. I got a lot of her personality. I didn't get all of it, but I got a pretty sizable chunk.
That being
the fact that she hides her feelings from her sister,
which makes her
a bit more secretive and kind of not that communicative. She doesn't
like the Bird and the Hoof episode we saw in the Crystal Empire that she's secretive, that she plans stuff for Twilight behind the scenes.
Facts versus feelings. I will just say that again. Facts versus feelings. You are comparing apples to facts. You are comparing apples to oranges. If she is hiding details, that is not the same as hiding feelings.
Hey, pass.
We even saw her open up to Luna in the very first episode, and she didn't come across that way.
Actually, hold on.
Was that really opening up? Her just saying, "I'm sorry."
The first time I've seen you in 1,000 years.
Guys,
would you please accept me back?
Seriously,
relationship.
We just need to stop this right now.
What this is what these cafe casts are about here, fleshing out his thoughts.
Well, I mean, the fact that you guys are just leaving the arguments only to yourselves and not letting anyone else enter the argument isn't really a particularly useful point of time for these podcasts, really.
Fair point.
No, it's not that.
Fair point. Sorry. Does anyone else have anything to say?
Yes.
Jordan, you first.
All right. Okay. I have to agree with Past here. Sorry, second, but I have to agree that Celestia trying to put up a facade to be perfect in front of every pony is kind of like an obligation that she has. She has this almost like a burden that she has to be perfect for everyone, for all her subjects. Like at the end where Luna says that she does an amazing job, but she doesn't have to act perfect for her sister. Well, she is a princess. That's something she has to do. And she does a good job at it, but it can exhaust her. She has to do this every single day of her life. And Luna, thanks to Starlight switching their cutie marks, Luna kind of got a taste of how hard it is for Celestia on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It's like I said, we see Mr. Miyagi when he's letting his hair that he doesn't have down, but I mean, like I said, he still comes across
Karate Kid
as
second.
I haven't seen Mr. Miyagi.
And second, let me 3 points.
Well, I guess I'm sorry. Well, hold on, one at a time here. That's just Jordan. Is that okay? A character like can still you build traits of a character for 3 seasons. All right, if you want to show us their more vulnerable side, their more relaxed side, you can do that without sacrificing those traits, without trying to elbow us in the ribs and say, hey, look, they're actually not like that. Yeah, it was all a facade. They're just like you.
And that's
how would you add anything then to Celestia's character? Because apparently adding a moment of weakness means that everything that she has.
She's like, she does the petty bickering with Luna. She does the brownie face when Luna won't eat breakfast with her. She does the oh, you're talking to yourself, but there's no one else. It's like, get it? She's vulnerable more than she was anyway. That's not really her defining characteristics or
being unhappy that your sister doesn't
those things.
Is apparently
no, I can actually see it.
Come again?
Valis, please talk.
Yeah.
Being
the thing is.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I understand, Pass. The thing is that when it comes to the show, when it started out like as it is, the sisters were pretty much, excluding Luna and her past, perfect. As time progressed, we had to learn more. Things were added in, things were added out, and now it's more of a kind of, we want them to be realistic, but it kind of conflicts what we know before, and so it makes a really confusing kind of mess. While some of us were like it, other of us second, I can understand be like, really, bruh? Really?
Granted, I do think this episode was definitely trying to go for more realistic. I think that it was thinking exactly along the lines that you said, Valis. I think the problem is what especially in these days where we've discovered how great anti-heroes can be or how important flaws are. I think what a lot of stories forget is that there's such a thing as a realistic character who is mature, who is composed. It's like now we've got to crowbar the flaws in there, and I think in this case we have, like I said, the just like you trope adapting to survive. Like, now what makes a character just like you, just so the 10-cent way to do that is to make them not perfect. Make them quirky in a way that isn't really that indicative of anything, but just...
Well,
not indicative of anything.
Quirky.
Right.
Celestia talking to herself isn't indicative of anything. Maybe it's indicative of the fact that she's a very people person, and when she's alone, she kind of struggles with that, because frankly, she's around other people like every single day.
Well, she's also a very social pony, and mind if I bring up, if we've seen Josh Scorcher's moment with Dr. Wolf about lawful good characters, Josh Scorcher brings up Captain America, who is another lawfully good superhero besides Superman. And Captain America is a lawfully good superhero, but he also has flaws. I mean, it's not he's vulnerable to a piece of radioactive rock like Superman is. But it's more character-wise that Captain America has to deal with a lot of struggles in life. Like, first of all, he's a fish out of time. He's been, all the people he knew, all his friends from the 40s are gone, or they're old, or they've all passed away. Everyone he knew or loved is gone, and he has to keep on adjusting to this new environment. And also, the whole fact that he's living in a world where not everything is as morally black and white as it was back in the 40s, with World War II and fighting Nazis and all that. That adds to his character, in my opinion. And so making Celestia imperfect, that adds to her character. That doesn't exactly hurt her character in any form or way, because let's face it, I don't think we've gotten that much development from Celestia at all. I mean, I haven't seen all the episodes of MLP, and so I wouldn't know exactly how much development she's gotten, but I think this is the first time that we've ever gotten any actual character development from Celestia. And seeing that she's imperfect, that almost makes her a more believable character.
Well, not only that, she was upset that her sister wasn't eating with her. Okay. Does that really make her super petty? Like, is that not like a normal thing for someone who's social? You care about your sister, you want to eat with her in breakfast, and she always flakes out on you.
Which, by the way, can I have those pancakes Luna leaves?
Like, that is a normal reaction. That is a fucking normal, sorry to curse, it's a normal reaction to be a little upset, which is what Celestia really was. She was a little upset. And Starlight kind of just, twisted that out of her. Like, come on, Celestia, tell me the truth. Tell me the truth. I'm getting the feeling that you don't like what she's doing. So Celestia didn't just if Celestia had yelled at Luna for not eating the breakfast, that would probably be a little bit out of character. That would be kind of weird.
Exactly. In fact, I think that would probably make her as petty as you were kind of suggesting. You were saying it second. I mean, no offense.
Good. So let's talk about the part where she yelled at Luna for not eating the breakfast.
After she was pushed to say it.
Let's debate.
And Celestia's first response is, "Oh, you think your stuff is so much more important than my breakfast. You just have to go around giving ponies lovely treats. That's so hard, isn't it?"
You're remembering it wrong, second. The first breakfast, she didn't say anything. She just looked upset, and that was it.
Oh yeah, that was just an offhand example. That's not where they really try to hammer it in.
And second,
anyway, to respond to your other point, imperfect is not a characteristic. That's just a broad description. Like, if Cap started doing imperfect things like talking to himself and then chastising himself for talking to himself, and bickering with Bucky like, oh, you think you have it so much harder because you don't have a shield.
Listen,
Not
second,
so much.
if I want to interject on something, like what you're trying to say is like what this episode is presenting is enough fluff material for like the overzealous fan to essentially put and pick apart character motives to easily clearly show like their experience is enhanced by their imagination alone, enhancing the episode from what you think is just simple fan pandering to like just like you characteristics. But here's the counterpoint I would like to say about like the character that you appreciated, the mature Celestia. Yeah, at one point could be considered admirable, like the way that we could view Twilight. But the way that the writers sort of like wrote her in that way is that, yes, it was kind of in a sense put that it was kind of in a way, without even saying it, that she was infallible, or just that she was very much like the strong mentor figure that spent 1,000 years of procuring Equestria piece. And the fact
Mary
that, like,
Sue.
Well,
don't say that word.
I'm not going to say.
I mean,
Mary
just
Sue.
being good does not make someone a Mary Sue. I think that we got hints.
Having no flaws makes someone a Mary Sue.
And I mean, granted, I'd have to read the episodes, but no, we saw like that. Okay, she was motherly towards Twilight, but she had to maintain a certain student-teacher boundary. We saw that she was more fun-loving than her role allowed her to be. Ponies like in Bird and the Hoof. We saw that she, I forget which episode it was that like hinted that she has to strain her maturity sometimes. It was anyway, we saw that she's planning things behind the scenes, and it's like, okay, there's a character that in and of itself is decent groundwork for a character that can be built on. And then the later seasons, like, okay, it probably would have been time around 3 and 4. They just passed on their chance. They really didn't follow it up all that much. So that's when I was ready to say, coming into this season, you know what, all right, fine. You want to do the whole, nope, she totally wasn't as mature, like, even, or forlorn, or any of those things as the earlier seasons were hinting. She's actually just like you. I'm like, okay, whatever, I can be ready for that. But for both of the past 2 episodes, like, they've just been so fascinated with showing that in and of itself. Like, every time we get a quote-unquote development with her, it feels like celestial advice. It feels like breaking down what we thought of her before. It feels like that feels like the point.
It's because we are getting flaws
being composed
in an arc. We're getting flaws in an arc, whereas past episodes where she's shown a flaw has all been very subtle. It hasn't, like, all the flaws that you mentioned, which were flaws, we've never gotten any of those throughout an episode. None of them.
Because none of the episodes were going in that direction.
No. The reason that we didn't get any of that is because the episode didn't focus on that.
Exactly.
And if the episode had, then we would have gotten more of those flaws. But the fact is that
let me see.
We would have gotten more detail. Second, but the thing is, we got detail here. That's what we got. We got detail.
More focus.
Yeah,
on
in Lesson 0 with Celestia showing up at the end, very disappointed in Twilight, but also willing to appreciating the friends when they popped out. If Luna had come in at that moment, you can picture Celestia suddenly turning uber petty and don't tell me how to do my job.
Can I jump in as a southern dragon?
Can I?
Go in.
Wait, I don't think we've heard from Wolf.
Yeah, Wolf, go first.
I was just laying back listening to everything about this.
You have anything to say about this?
Not really. I think the most of it got covered.
Okay.
Can I actually continue what I was saying in my section?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
For it.
All right. As I was trying to say is that the Celestia, as second depicted, all the way back from season 1, like at the beginning, it's not. It was definitely all right. Even though she wouldn't be the most popular character, it still would have been fine. Like if they were to continue like that arc with like Celestia, like this smart, intelligent role model that knew her boundaries when dealing with Twilight and such. But I felt like the moment at which they absolutely needed for it to like work, but due to the compromises they made for the story, absolutely trounced that characterization, was all the way back at the season 4 finale, in which, despite the fact that Celestia brought a terrible idea in trying to procure the safety of Equestria against the threat of Tyrrick.
Don't debate that. I will fight you to the death on that one.
Just the fact that there wasn't
I
any
can fight to the
fallout,
death. I have time.
the fact that there wasn't any fallout in the actual story over this decision and how it made Twilight act to like the rest of the main six, when if that wasn't even a part of a conflict, it would have helped Equestria, and it could have been like a moment in which she would have admitted that there are some moments in which there's some spots in her mentality over planning and such.
Okay.
But no, there wasn't any sort of flaw in it at all. And it just really degraded that good character that the show was building up to from season 1 to that point for me.
Sorry, that all sounds like a very personal interpretation of all that.
It's not a very personal interpretation. It is more of an interpretation of some great character being deconstructed by a flaw that was never announced in the actual show.
Okay, you made a plan that didn't.
Okay, guys, I think we need to calm down a bit. I think things are getting a little out of control here.
I'm going to calm down.
Pass goes first.
One thing that I want to say is that anybody, even the most patient individual, if you talk something down, it is going to blow up. And that is what happened here. It was these feelings of, Luna basically not socializing with Celestia at all, who from this episode's vantage point seems to be a pretty social person. Celestia didn't bring it up, but she had that feeling in the back of her mind.
And basically, she was bottling up her emotions the same way Starlight did, literally. And because of that...
But let me finish. And the unreasonable thing that you pointed out, second, is the fact that is the culmination of however many, breakfasts have gone by with Celestia saying nothing, and then having that be forcefully like, come on, Celestia, tell her. Like, that is what resulted in Celestia saying that. It was, if Starlight didn't tell her to release it, it wouldn't have been released. It wouldn't have exploded. Who knows? Maybe Celestia would have kept that those feelings tight till the day she died.
Yeah.
Maybe but the fact is, they were kept, bottled up for however long, probably a long time, and they were pushed out, so it exploded out. What?
Kind of the same way Rainbow Dash exerts her emotions when she bottles them up.
Exactly.
The same way as an atomic bomb does.
Yep.
Wow, I never knew all this time that Celestia was just like Rainbow Dash.
No, she's not. The difference is that Rainbow Dash hardly bottle things up at all. Whereas with Celestia, turned out she probably has a pretty high patience for bottling shit up. Considering that she does it all the bloody time. She keeps so much stuff hidden. Here we found out that she keeps feelings hidden, and it blows up.
But I thought she was an extrovert.
What? So an extrovert.
I don't know what that means.
you're telling me that because someone's an extrovert, because they like socializing with other people, it doesn't mean, like, you're saying it means that they can't
So she can bottle stuff up, but she can't be comfortable when she doesn't have someone to express her feelings to.
Guys, extrovert here means an outgoing, overtly expressive person.
Thank you. That is not what extrovert means, second. If you're an extrovert, you can still keep things hidden.
The reason she was, falling apart, talking to herself, and getting, like, antsy in the dream world was because she's an extrovert, but then she does keep feelings to herself, and she is okay with it. It's the thing.
It's the talking out loud. I was referring to the talking out loud. Celestia talking out loud. That is something that is probably a result of, being around other people every single day for years on end.
And then suddenly she has to work alone. All of a sudden,
talking out loud.
She feels so alone. And
there's a difference between blowing up and talking out loud.
So, well, I don't know. I think that there'd be some crossover there if she has the patience to talk to everybody as a politician and keep her real feelings hidden and accept that they are often below her level. Like now, she needs these people around her, or else she feels like she has no one to talk to and she's not sure how to cope with that.
And you know what, dude? I don't blame you on this. It's a tricky thing because the fact is, before Luna came back and all this stuff happened, she lived the Royal Kingdom for 1,000 years. So somehow she kept everything together. So suddenly she cannot keep everything together. It's more like, woman, how? How could you not keep it all together now? What? I don't know how to do this job. It's like, really, woman?
Okay, wait. Okay. There are some issues there.
And so I can see where Second's coming from. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I can see where it's coming from.
Just because someone... There is such a thing called not wanting to express your feelings. Like someone who literally doesn't want to do it and doesn't feel good doing it. And I'm saying that Celestia could easily be that kind of person who, generally speaking, doesn't really want to talk about her feelings, doesn't want to give out any of that information to people because she's kind of a bit of a politician. I'm saying that she fits the role so much, the hand fits the glove so much that when it is forced out, as it was in this episode, it was forced out, it comes barreling out, because even if you don't like talking about something, even if you really don't like talking about it, following it up and then having someone force it out is going to have it explode. Even if you don't want it to explode, it's going to explode. There's a
Pass. Yeah. An example of that is parental guidance. Like the conflict with Rainbow Dash with her parents. She's been keeping that from her parents for a very long time. So that kind of explains her outburst. And combined with how she can easily let stress get to her like that. Like the only way when she gets so stressful, she sometimes explodes when she has to exert that pressure. Combine that with how long that she's been keeping her feelings from her parents, I think that's basically your point, I think.
The politician role and the bottling up bit, those two things are not incongruent with each other. You can have both of them happen. You can have the bottling up of emotions causing explosion and be a bit of a politician. You can do both.
Sorry.
Why are you saying sorry?
Because you were kind of saying that I was wrong.
No, well, I'm clarifying that I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying
Okay.
Well, I mean, like, one, I think there are different ways that people break down. I think that characteristics, even when you're at your wits' end, they play into that. Like, I mean, somebody who is used to being the most mature one in the room might, for example, maintain a superior tone, and let's say something that says more like, "Oh, you think you're so high and mighty now? Let's look at that very carefully." And somebody who's really like short-tempered might explode and say and yell about it and try to throw stuff in their face. But yeah, Celestia to me here, she like when she is breaking down fighting with Luna, she sounds pretty similar. She sounds like they're trying to like mock and heckle the other one. Like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't notice you make faces on pancakes. Oh, well, you have it so tough giving ponies lovely dreams. And I mean, and if I kept going down that path, we'd have another ring around. We'd have another ring around the rosy there with, yeah, how that plays in.
I think
but
that
I
was
mean,
the whole conflict of the episode, that the royal sisters weren't seeing eye to eye. They weren't understanding what they go through on a daily basis.
Bottled up explosions are always petty. Look at any bottled up explosion.
Level, but even so,
you are going like it was petty
based on who's saying it.
It was petty when Starlight did it to Trixie because she was complaining about the most, tiny things. Any explosion caused from bottling it up is going to be petty, and it's the action that is petty. It doesn't suddenly make the person who did it petty.
I mean, granted, we're already starting another ring around the rosy there, but like I was afraid of. But I mean, I didn't say it wasn't petty, but I mean, in your example with Starlight, we saw how all the things she'd been going to played into it. She sounded at her wit's end. She sounded tired. She sounded annoyed, but she also sounded sort of like
complaints were petty,
like appealing. Like can't you see how bad all of this is? It's like, okay, again, the setup and the payoff, and that's what I'm saying with this episode here. It's like we have to. I'm not saying it's please, why did you even try this? D-, 2 thumbs down. I'm saying it's it's an episode that's like all concept for the appeal. It's candy and stuff like that, because like even though we know what it wanted to do with all of this and we like the thought of what it was trying to do, it's like when breaking it down, we go in these rings all the way around because it's not like a fleshed out, intriguingly delivered bit of character development. It's
no, we're going around these ring arounds because we disagree and we're having an intense debate. That's why we're going around this ring around. It's not because this episode inherently failed, because you can have a ring around with literally any episode.
Well, I mean, granted, on some level, someone derailing that enough, but like even, I mean, I have you guys going with like, well, okay, there is such a thing as someone who doesn't always like expressing certain thoughts, so you could say Celestia is like that. You're saying, like, you have to put two separate displays of her together and say, well, I guess there's, like, coordination if you were to guess that she has this type of personality. Like, don't coherently build on themselves.
It's as qualified as an interpretation as the one you are giving.
Well, key word there, interpretation, though. You're not,
Yeah.
All of this is talking about impression.
You're talking about interpretation. We're talking about interpretation.
Interpret. Well, I mean, I'm interpreting authorial intent. You're interpreting. That is a new second opinionism. But you're interpreting how you could potentially justify all I am not interpreting how I could potentially
see it as viable. I am interpreting it as viable, and you are interpreting it as not viable.
Honestly, the whole thing about about like Celestia, like essentially like not really showing like something that's authentic of our past self. Like really, it's like there's some types of people that just honestly just just don't want any conflict to surface at all, decide their position because they don't honestly want to get into conflict. So when the conflict comes out and it shows up to be very petty and such, it's just really, really, it's not really like showing like a bad side of the character. It's just that they really was afraid of even bringing that conflict up to the surface in the first place, worrying that it could cause lasting damages when it's very healthy, and that they forgot all about it because they wanted to have peace.
Okay, and when did the episode say that that's Celestia? Like, what traits all come together to build on themselves to consistently say, yeah, that's our Celestia?
Okay,
and that's part of the problem.
She's social. She needs to talk to herself. She needs to talk when she's alone. That kind of can suggest very easily, with even a little smidget of imagination, that maybe she's a pretty big extrovert. And also, the fact that she wasn't saying anything and then she yelled it out suggests that she bottled it up and then exploded.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm believing you all this because, again, I like this episode, but when it comes to second viewpoint, it's more like, as a normal viewer who doesn't jump on this every single day, it's more like, where the fudge did this come from? And that's where I can see his viewpoint. That's where I can see, like, okay, where the heck did this come from? That's where I can see the problem.
It's a new thing that we haven't seen before. I don't think it can, like, I don't see how having a character who we've seen very little of in terms of character arcs, we've seen no character arcs from Celestia. None.
We've seen, I think, her, how she acts in situations that were pretty consistent with the image of her as a mature, but
but there were arcs at all second. Were they
second?
But anyway, well, actually, here's something that to answer past question from before. Then how, like, well, and Valis's point too. How would I do Celestia, and then what would come across as less jarring? Take a look at the comic where she teams up with Spike, and we get to see what she's sort of thinking behind the scene, how she sees herself as a teacher, and how she would appreciate going on her own adventures, but she does very much have to accept her lot in life. But then towards the end, where she sends Spike that letter saying how much she appreciated going on her own little adventure, and
You read it?
Oh yeah, and then too, how she wants her to, she makes the excuse for him to not address her as a princess because she wants to, she prefers loosening up on that front. But then when the rock lobster things come and call her out, she's like, "I am acting Princess of Equestria. You must yield to me." That's kind of like what I was saying with Mr. Miyagi. We see her letting her hair down, but she still feels like Celestia. It doesn't feel like reveling in the novelty, like, okay, Celestia, get it in this position. She's totally nothing like she's seen before. Like,
And this is the tricky
I have no idea even what this Mr. Miyagi thing is. I don't even know what you're referring to.
Mr. Miyagi is the wise old mentor from the Karate Kid who can take down any
never watched the
Karate from the No
Kid.
Mercy guy, but he also likes to push Daniel off the boat when he's practicing his form on the lake, and he also
I never watched the Karate Kid. You're describing. I've never watched the Karate Kid.
Me neither.
Okay, how about why
you're gonna give yourself a get out of jail free card? Are you? But I mean, my point being that you can you can show us the more vulnerable sides of like a patient, mature character while showing how their patience and maturity factors in by not making
It's not an arc,
like
though.
mask.
It's not an arc. Just having a character having a character who just does something, there's a wise character, but they do something, they show a bit of their sensitivity, and just seeing that is not an arc.
You can have them extremely challenged on those fronts and show how the kind of character they are factors in. I mean, are you saying that this is an arc, just like, oh, we flipped the script and Celestia gets insecure all the time?
An arc is when you have a character go through a change. It's not just seeing one character trait that you haven't seen before come up. It is showing a change in that character's perspective and a change in that character's behavior.
Guys,
this
how long
was
have we
tied
been
to
going on
very,
with
very
this?
little that I've ever seen Celestia do.
Excuse me.
And sure, the problem is that Celestia has been started off as perfect, a goddess. Now she's
I wouldn't really say
mortal,
that so much, but
and it's kind of this weird back and forth. Perfect, not perfect. Maybe she is perfect, maybe not. It's, oh, Bahamut, help me. Oh, what is it? So we can talk about this for hours. Seriously, bro.
I think the problem is I must come across as even more of a heel than I realize or intend, because I think I became someone that everybody here wanted to out-punch. So
No, the problem is
yes.
you have your stance on her, which is what the show brought up, and we have our stance. It's a very confusing thing, which is hard to debate. So it's hard to argue against it, which is the problem with the series and the princesses at start.
But, alright. Well, I will yield now because, I think it's perfectly reasonable to be tired of it at this point.
Absolutely.
What are you, Miley Cyrus?
No, it's always fun to debate this. We can debate till we're old and gray.
Lord knows I can.
Or essentially we become the embodiment of fire versus cold.
Yeah. Alright, so you saw that SmackDown between Nightmare Moon and Daybreaker. Now, or if you didn't, rather, you don't have to now. It's got nothing on this SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that SmackDown was pretty tame compared to the SmackDown that just happened.
We pretty much had a civil war here.
Civil War.
Not really. More like guys debating around a table over some coffee and booze.
A lot of booze.
It's kind of like
And apple juice.
Like seriously though, it would make for one awesome picture though. The ultimate debate that led to the longest lasting cafe cast of all. Which I think we
well, in that case, we need to go for another hour then. So, okay,
No,
everybody
please,
can get a 2-minute break, and
Do
then
it,
you have
I'm
to put
down.
the gloves back
Come
on.
on, guys, let's do this. Let's go
Uh,
to war.
Can I phone a friend though? I feel like it's not as interesting if if it's me, somebody who doesn't agree, me, somebody else who doesn't agree, me.
Go ahead and make a phone call.
I'm sorry, Mom, but I won't be able to go back home until late tonight, possibly even tomorrow morning. It's gonna be one of those nights.
Sorry, Diane, I can't go to Themyscira.
Yeah, and then this could just be like that Food Wars anime where making food somehow translates into every action trope scene ever.
Oh, damn, that sounds so delicious.
Animation, like us punching each other with boxing gloves that say, David Ex Machina, Mary Sue.
Or punching ghosts in one case for Food Wars.
Yeah.
Gotta get those orders! Order!
Okay.
You're talking about Baku no Hero? Yes.
No.
Oh, yeah? I'm so
no.
Okay.
Food Wars had one JoJo reference.
Okay. Alright, but I may as well say something good about this episode since I've been a heck of a negative center for this debate universe to revolve around for a guy who's giving this episode a B-, so
No, you made a great point for debate. That was your point, bro.
no,
Yeah,
I
that was
appreciate
your
that,
point.
but did anybody
didn't
think
think
that
you were-
Luna's nightmare was absolutely great nightmare fuel?
Oh, yeah.
A little bit.
Yes.
The teeth flying out was like, oh, heck no.
Especially if you have family members who have gone through that at all. Just, it scars.
Yeah, I mean, I like the side of Luna that they've had that, like, in most of her episodes anyway, that she cares more than she lets on, and that, like, yeah, make her bleed. So you kind of came through muffled there, Anime. Was that you have to go?
Is I have to go now? It's getting late.
All right, so okay.
I did not expect it to be this long, though.
Everybody, head around and sign off.
All right, Dane.
I'll go first. So, everyone, I'm Jordan Lego Comics. I'm exhausted. I'm going to go spend some time with my family in a little bit after we sign off. And again, I got to give this episode a 10 out of 10 on the awesome meter. It's an awesome episode for me. If you haven't seen it yet, I mean, you probably won't want to because we spoiled it, but I highly recommend this episode.
This is the Anime Wolf Gamer, and this episode is really damn good, but I'm going to have to give the score NA because I just can't say that it's a must-watch after finding out of the possibility that DHX might have stolen it from a fan. Until more details comes out, at least compared to what we got so far, it's gonna stay that way. And unfortunately, it's not allowed to be on my top 10 list, at least until when everything clears up.
As for me, this has been one cafe cast in which I've acted quite strangely. Like, outside of my usual fan-going self, this episode has sort of brought up an extreme, like, this episode's discussion has sort of brought out, like, an actually very repressed side of myself that actually wanted to, like, debate, but it was still being restrained by the positive politeness of myself. Kind of similar to how Celestia was kind of shown at the beginning of the episode, which kind of gives more credence as to why I started to really appreciate her and consider her my favorite princess now, because I can easily relate to, like, just bottling up everything, even if I didn't understand why I was bottling up in the first place, and despite being an extrovert, not being honest at all with everyone, just so I could come out completely clean. And this cafe cast has clearly shown that I'm willing to go out of bounds in order to actually bring out a point of argument against even one of my closest friends. So there you go. I really do want to punch second. I still agree to that. This is Unova signing out.
Past you go.
Yeah, okay. I stand by my statements. I loved this episode. I think this episode was amazing. And it's becoming increasingly clear to me that I can only really defend, like, I don't say that much about an episode unless I'm defending it, apparently. like when I'm negative, I'll have a lot to say. But when I'm positive, I really don't, unless someone else, in this case, our lovely second, has a very opposite opinion, and I enjoyed it. Second, I hope you did. I hope I didn't burn any bridges.
I feel better, actually. I feel like after you have that, like, I don't know, 12-round boxing match, not that I've ever been in one of those, but like some long, hard match like that was perfectly even all the way across. Not too easy, not too fruitless, just like, ooh, I got that out of my system.
Yeah, no, it feels good. But anyway, kind of wrapping up what I have to say, I loved this episode, and I think that the season is on track to beat season, to be my second favorite. I think it's on track.
Aww.
I kind of feel like how I did at the start of season 4 right now. Like, I can see the effort, I can see the good ideas, and then, like, and this was only the first half, it keeps, like, steering just like not quite there for so many episodes. And I'm like, come on, you can get there. You can be a great one. You can do it. And season 4 was like exactly at the halfway point where I started to be like, yes, breakthrough. So we'll see here. But in the meantime, like, I appreciate effort, so I'm rooting for this season so far. I do not mind it.
Oh, it's fantastic. I love the episode. Finally, because at the very least, fans can finally shut up about seeing a Celestia Luna episode, even though for us in the comics, we're like, bro, it's already been done. But yes, for the show, finally, it's great to finally see this episode come to pass. And by all the by, I really am happy to see how the season's going to go by.
So we shall see. And this is your Cafe Cast, signing out.
Adios.
Adios.
Ciao, fellas.